how to connect with powerful people. As the ancient proverb wisely says, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm." Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we are exploring a transformative approach to networking, how to connect with powerful people through the lens of spiritual alignment. True influence isn't just about who you know. It's about the energy you carry and the value you radiate. By applying these sacred principles to your daily interactions, you can shift from simply seeking connections to naturally attracting the mentors and leaders meant for your path. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. What is the number one quality you admire in a leader? Let us know in the comments below. And let's start a conversation that elevates us all. 1. Power responds to leverage, not intention. Power does not respond to kindness, effort, or intention. It responds to leverage. You've been taught that being a good person, working hard, and showing loyalty would eventually get you noticed. But power is not sentimental. It's strategic. In the realm of influence, people do not ask, "Who is the kindest?" They ask, "Who can elevate what I'm building?" This realization is not about abandoning your values, but about stepping into a higher level of spiritual awakening, where you understand that value is the true language of connection. Powerful individuals do not need more friends. They need forces. They need stabilizers, protectors, vision expanders, and people who can think 3 moves ahead. If you want to move in rooms of influence, you must stop trying to be liked and start being useful in ways that are undeniable. Your intention means little if it doesn't translate into tangible impact. Spirituality is not passive. It's about alignment, clarity, and contribution. You're not here to hope someone sees your worth. You're here to become the kind of presence that shifts the dynamic of every room you walk into. Powerful people don't connect based on emotional appeal. They connect through utility, energy, and shared momentum. The question is not whether you're good enough. The question is whether you're positioned correctly. Are you offering clarity in chaos? Are you able to protect a vision under pressure? Are you the one who reflects their greatness without competing with it? If not, it's not personal. It's just misalignment. Spiritual awakening means shedding the need for approval and recognizing the value of your own essence. It means asking, how do I become essential to the mission, not just present in the room? Stop offering friendship and start offering solutions. Stop showing up with neediness and start showing up with answers. The people you seek to connect with are not waiting to be impressed. They're scanning for energy that reinforces theirs, for minds that solve problems before they arise, and for souls that move in silent precision. To access that level of connection, you must embody spiritual wisdom that's rooted in confidence, not performance. When you realize this, everything shifts. You stop chasing attention and start building presence. You stop hoping to be chosen and start becoming the one who cannot be ignored. Power gravitates toward what it needs to sustain itself. Be that source. Be that mirror. Be that grounded energy that doesn't need recognition, because your contribution speaks louder than your introduction. And most of all, let your spirituality not just be a belief, but a strategy. Do you recognize this truth? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I build real leverage, and power recognizes me. 2. Stop trying to be liked. Become an asset. Stop trying to be liked, because those in positions of real power are not looking for friendship. They're scanning for value. They don't wake up needing approval or companionship. They wake up needing clarity, speed, security, and leverage. If you walk into the room hoping to be seen, heard, or chosen, you've already surrendered your position. Connection at that level isn't built on authenticity alone. It's built on accuracy. You must understand what matters to them, what burdens them, what they're protecting, and what inefficiencies drain their time or energy, and then become the person who removes that weight without demanding attention. This is not about being fake. It's about being effective. Powerful people live in high-stakes ecosystems where every misstep costs them something: time, money, privacy, reputation. So they surround themselves with people who don't increase their risks, but quietly dissolve them. You don't rise by being agreeable. You rise by being irreplaceable. Be the one who simplifies the path, shortens the timeline, sharpens the decision, or strengthens the defense. They don't need entertainment. They need execution. They don't need praise. They need precision. If your presence brings noise, distraction, or emotional volatility, they will avoid you. But if your presence brings calm, focus, and trusted results, they will keep you in their orbit. This is why powerful people don't need more friends. They need solutions, protection, insight, or advantage. It's not just a quote, it's a standard. Every interaction becomes a test of, are you helping me move faster? Are you helping me think clearer? Are you protecting my energy, my privacy, my momentum? And here's where spirituality and spiritual development either elevate you or betray you. If you use spirituality as an excuse for being unprepared, inconsistent, or self-absorbed, your growth becomes performative and power will sense it. But if your spiritual development gives you groundedness, restraint, clarity of purpose, and emotional regulation, you become the kind of person who is trusted in rooms where silence is currency and loyalty is everything. Instead of demanding to be seen, you radiate the calm power of someone who doesn't need to be the loudest voice because they are the most useful presence. Instead of oversharing to prove your realness, you say what needs to be said with discretion and clean energy. Instead of chasing opportunities, you become the kind of person who opportunities gravitate toward. You move through the world with skill, intention, and stillness. You communicate briefly, listen deeply, and act strategically. Your value isn't declared, it's felt. And as you grow in wisdom, your reputation becomes a silent magnet for influence, for alignment, for elevation. This is the shift from being likable to being essential. It is the shift from being seen as extra to being seen as infrastructure. The lesson is simple, but transformative. Stop begging for access and start embodying the reason you should be trusted with it. 3. Never threaten their ego. Never threaten the ego of powerful people, because ego is the armor that protects their identity, their status, and the story they tell themselves about why they are where they are. When you challenge that armor directly, even unintentionally, you do not inspire respect. You trigger defense. Power responds first to safety, not to truth, talent, or good intentions. If you want access, influence, or alignment with those who hold authority, you must understand that making them feel superior, competent, and validated is not manipulation. It is awareness of human psychology guided by spiritual wisdom. This does not mean lying, shrinking, or pretending to be less than you are. It means choosing not to compete where competition is unnecessary and counterproductive. As Dale Carnegie observed, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. And this principle becomes even more critical when dealing with power, because powerful people are constantly scanning for threats, rivals, and hidden challengers. When you outshine a powerful figure openly, correct them publicly, or position yourself as the smartest person in the room, you may win the argument, but you lose the relationship. Power does not reward those who expose it. It protects those who reinforce it. This is why subtle validation is far more effective than direct confrontation. Reflect their ideas back to them, expand on their vision, and let them feel that their intelligence is the source of progress. In doing so, you are not surrendering your influence, you are planting it. Lao Tzu captured this perfectly when he said, "The best leaders are those the people hardly know exist," and the same applies to those who move close to power. The less you announce yourself, the more room you are given to stay. Spiritual wisdom teaches that influence works quietly, beneath the surface, long before it ever becomes visible. Powerful people do not need more friends, praise, or admiration. They need mirrors that reflect competence, loyalty, and discretion. When they feel safe around you, when they sense that you are not trying to replace them, embarrass them, or rise at their expense, their guard lowers. That lowered guard is where access is born. Napoleon Bonaparte once remarked, "A soldier will fight long and hard for a bit of colored ribbon," reminding us that recognition and validation are often stronger motivators than logic or morality. The same truth applies at the highest levels of influence, where ego is not a flaw, but a structural necessity. This approach requires emotional discipline because your own ego will want recognition, credit, and visibility. If you cannot regulate that impulse, you will unconsciously sabotage your position. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And in this context, unexamined pride becomes the very force that blocks your progress. When you learn to hold your strength without displaying it prematurely, you become someone powerful. People trust rather than fear. They sense that you are an asset, not a liability, someone who protects their image rather than threatens it. Feeding vanity does not mean flattery. Flattery is obvious, shallow, and transactional, while genuine validation is subtle, specific, and rooted in observation. Acknowledge their insight without exaggeration. Respect their authority without submission, and support their vision without erasing your own. Safety always comes before access, because no one in power opens doors for those who make them feel replaceable or diminished. They keep close to those who make them feel expanded, understood, and secure. When you embody spiritual wisdom, you realize that the highest form of influence is not dominance, but alignment, not noise, but presence, and not proving your brilliance, but knowing when to let others feel brilliant while you quietly gain trust, proximity, and long-term influence. Comment below. I honor power without threatening ego. If you're ready to connect with powerful people through wisdom, respect, and inner strength. 4. Conceal your intentions and create mystery. Desperation carries an unmistakable energy. one that instantly pushes powerful people away. It reveals itself in the way you speak too much, share too quickly, and try too hard to prove your worth. In the realm of influence, those who crave validation are seen not as allies, but as liabilities. Power moves towards self-containment, not self-exposure. That's why one of the deepest forms of spiritual awakening is learning to conceal your intentions not out of manipulation, but out of spiritual wisdom and inner mastery. When you become unreadable, not by being cold, but by being composed, you shift the dynamic in any room. Instead of chasing attention, you command curiosity. Silence becomes your strength. Mystery becomes your gravity. People begin leaning in, not because you're trying to impress them, but because they can't quite figure you out, and that makes you unforgettable. Powerful people don't seek more friends. They seek value, alignment, and protection of their energy. When you walk in broadcasting what you want, you surrender the sacred leverage that comes from detachment. But when you withhold your desires, you give them something far more compelling, an energetic puzzle. They begin to wonder what you know, who you are, and why you're not trying to prove yourself. In this space, power becomes intrigued. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding the spiritual truth that your presence is more impactful than your pitch. Those who truly embody their purpose rarely feel the need to explain it. They let their essence speak first. This level of restraint is a practice rooted in both ancient spirituality and modern strategy. From the Stoics to the sages, it has always been known. Those who can master themselves gain mastery over the room. Concealing your intentions doesn't mean hiding your authenticity. It means guarding your energy with discernment. It means allowing others to reveal themselves before you offer anything. It means not mistaking early access for earned trust. When you practice this form of spiritual discernment, you no longer feel the urge to be chosen, because you have already chosen yourself. You stand complete, not waiting for permission to be seen. And in this state of grounded presence, powerful people don't just notice you, they respect you. Every relationship becomes a mirror. If you present yourself as empty and needy, you reflect back scarcity. If you present yourself as whole and aligned, you reflect back power. Mystery activates the law of polarity. It draws others in by creating space. Space to wonder. Space to observe. Space to earn access to your inner world. And this, ironically, is what creates connection, not proximity, but magnetism. In spiritual terms, this is the energy of sovereignty. It's knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation, that you are not here to be consumed, but to be discovered slowly by those with the depth to appreciate you. Concealing your intentions is not deception, it is devotion to your own energy. It is choosing to let your spirit do the talking before your mouth ever does. And that, in the world of influence, is true spiritual wisdom. 5. Appeal to self-interest, not mercy. Never appeal to mercy when trying to connect with powerful people, and appeal to self-interest. In a world driven by influence and leverage, sympathy holds no lasting weight. If you present yourself as someone seeking help, favors, or understanding, you risk being seen as a liability rather than an ally. Power doesn't respond to emotion. It responds to utility, clarity, and value. Your first task is to position yourself as someone who brings solutions, not needs. Speak in the language of their problems, not the language of your personal desires. Understand what drives them, what goals they pursue, what obstacles they face, what fears they want to eliminate. Then offer something that meets them at that level: insight, skills, strategies, or connections that serve their vision. When you show that you get their world and can contribute to it, you move from being just another person seeking attention to someone they can't afford to ignore. Powerful people do not need more friends. They need assets. They need strategic allies, protectors, fixers, and mirrors who can reflect blind spots and amplify their influence. When you offer that, you're no longer competing for approval. You're stepping into relevance. As the saying goes, it is better to be needed than liked. Being liked is emotional and fleeting. Being needed creates a foundation of lasting value and respect. This principle aligns deeply with true spirituality. Spirituality is not about shrinking yourself, begging for acceptance, or hoping someone sees your goodness. It's about spiritual development, the inner growth that teaches you how to walk on purpose, offer value, and communicate from clarity. When you understand your worth and stand in your strength, you stop asking for a seat at the table. You bring something to the table. Approaching people with empty hands or emotional appeals drains both parties. But approaching them with aligned value activates trust, curiosity, and possibility. Whether it's a fresh solution to their problem, a new way of seeing, or simply a stabilizing presence, your offering must speak directly to their mission. When it does, connection becomes natural, not forced. Leave a like, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss powerful insights like this on influence, spirituality, and spiritual growth. If you're ready to connect with powerful people by understanding value, not begging for mercy, affirm it in the comments by typing, "I bring value and abundance flows to me." 6. Use scarcity and strategic absence. Over-availability quietly signals low value, no matter how capable, intelligent, or well-intentioned you are. And if you truly want to connect with powerful people, you must understand that power responds to presence with boundaries, not constant access. When you make yourself endlessly available, you unconsciously communicate that your time is abundant and therefore expendable. But when you respect your own schedule, protect your energy, and choose when to engage, your presence begins to carry weight. As Seneca observed, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And powerful people instinctively recognize those who treat time as a sacred resource rather than something to be given away freely. Strategic absence is not manipulation or emotional distance. It is the natural outcome of having a full, grounded life that does not revolve around anyone else's validation. When you withdraw intentionally instead of hovering, you create psychological space, and that space allows curiosity, respect, and appreciation to grow. People value what is not always available, not because of scarcity alone, but because selectivity suggests self-mastery. Those who move with quiet confidence, who know when to step back without explanation, signal that their identity and purpose are anchored internally, not dependent on external approval. Maintaining a life independent of powerful people is essential because attachment weakens perception, while self-containment strengthens it. When your happiness, direction, and sense of meaning exist outside of their attention, you become intriguing rather than predictable. Lao Tzu captured this truth when he said, "When you let go of who you are, you become who you might be," pointing to the power that emerges when you release the need to always be seen or needed. Absence allows others to feel your impact rather than be overwhelmed by your presence, and this subtle restraint keeps you psychologically relevant. Strategic absence also preserves your energy and sharpens your communication. When you are not constantly available, your words carry more clarity. Your responses feel intentional, and your silence itself becomes expressive. Carl Jung noted, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." And this inward anchoring is what prevents you from chasing attention or over-explaining your value. Powerful people recognize those who cannot be rushed, pressured, or emotionally pulled off center, because such individuals operate from inner stability rather than fear of loss. Scarcity, when guided by spiritual wisdom, is not about withholding or superiority. It is about discernment. It is choosing depth over noise, alignment over urgency, and presence over performance. When you stop responding to everything immediately, stop showing up everywhere, and stop proving your worth through availability, you naturally elevate your perceived value. In doing so, you align with those who understand power at its core, not as dominance, but as self-command, psychological balance, and respect for one's own time and energy. 7. Mirror their identity and fantasy. Powerful people aren't seeking more friends. They're seeking reflections of their identity and extensions of their vision. If you want to form meaningful bonds with them, the key lies in mirroring their self-concept, not mimicking it, but affirming what they already believe about themselves and the role they're here to play. People crave confirmation of their worldview and identity, and when you align your presence with that deeper image, they feel seen, not flattered. Match their communication style with precision. Speak directly to the leader with clarity and confidence, to the visionary with bold ideas, and to the rebel with fearless truth. Spirituality teaches us to see beyond surface impressions into the soul of a person, and this is where spiritual awakening becomes essential. You're not just adapting behavior, you're tuning into frequency. Just like tuning a radio, your goal is to find the station they're broadcasting on and meet them there without distorting your own signal. When someone sees themselves reflected in you, not in flattery, but in sincere alignment, they naturally feel safer, more understood, and more likely to draw you into their circle. A powerful person who sees you as a mirror of their identity or values will instinctively want to keep you close because you affirm the story they're building about themselves. The leader feels stronger with your support. The savior feels more purposeful with your acknowledgement, and the rebel feels validated in their challenge. This is not manipulation, it's resonance. By noticing how they speak, what they value, what they protect, and what they attack, you gain insight into their inner map. And when you speak from that map, you become relevant. Offer words that fit the way they see the world. If they value legacy, highlight long-term thinking. If they value precision, offer clarity and order. If they thrive in disruption, speak to the fire of change. People don't connect with your facts. They connect with how your presence makes them feel about who they are. By reflecting someone's chosen identity, especially the role they are aspiring to step into, you activate the deeper psychology of belonging and loyalty. It's not about acting, It's about attunement. This is spiritual wisdom in action, using your awareness not to control, but to harmonize. True influence doesn't require loudness, it requires alignment. And the moment you stop trying to prove your worth and start reflecting on theirs, you enter a higher level of connection, one that doesn't chase power, but understands it, honors it, and channels it with grace. 8. Maintain radical autonomy. Radical autonomy is the quiet strength that reshapes how you are perceived by powerful people. Because the moment you stop needing them, your energy shifts from seeking to standing. When you are whole within yourself, independent in your choices, clear in your values, and emotionally prepared to walk away, your presence carries a natural authority that cannot be imitated. This is not about pride or emotional distance, but about inner completeness, a state where you no longer rely on external approval to feel secure. In spirituality and advanced spiritual development, this inner wholeness is seen as a sign of maturity, because you are no longer fragmented by fear, desire, or the need to be chosen. You show up as someone who chooses, not someone who waits to be chosen. Powerful people live in a world filled with requests, expectations, and subtle forms of dependency, so they become instinctively aware of who needs them and who does not. When you approach them without hunger, without trying to impress, and without shrinking your identity, you immediately stand out. You are no longer performing for acceptance. You are simply present, grounded, and self-directed. This absence of need creates psychological space, and space is rare and valuable in environments driven by control and leverage. True connection with power happens between equals, not dependents, because equality is not measured by status or resources, but by inner posture. When you know that your life remains intact, whether this connection continues or ends, you communicate freedom, and freedom is deeply magnetic. The willingness to walk away is not a threat or a tactic. It is a reflection of self-respect. When you can disengage without resentment, remain calm without attachment, and say no without guilt, you demonstrate emotional sovereignty. This is where spiritual development becomes practical rather than abstract, because it teaches you how to remain centered even when influence, opportunity, or recognition is within reach. Powerful people are drawn to this steadiness because it mirrors the inner discipline they must maintain to survive their own responsibilities. They recognize, often unconsciously, that you cannot be easily manipulated, pressured, or owned, and that recognition creates respect before words ever do. Radical autonomy also purifies your intentions. When you no longer need something from someone, your interactions become cleaner, more honest, and more direct. There is no hidden contract beneath your kindness, no emotional debt being formed through proximity, and no pressure attached to your presence. This clarity builds trust faster than charm or flattery, because trust is born where motives are transparent. In the language of spirituality, this is alignment, when your inner state and outward behavior match, and powerful people sense this congruence immediately. They may not name it as spiritual development, but they feel it as reliability, discernment, and inner strength. Engaging from choice rather than necessity changes the entire dynamic of connection. You listen differently, speak more precisely, and respond instead of reacting. You are no longer trying to secure a place. You are evaluating whether the connection aligns with who you are becoming. This internal shift subtly reverses the balance of energy, because the less you seek access, the more access appears naturally. Autonomy signals that you value your freedom more than proximity to influence, and paradoxically, this makes your presence more desirable. You are not competing for attention. You are offering stability, perspective, and calm, qualities that powerful people often lack in their inner circles. The deeper lesson of radical autonomy is that power cannot be approached from emptiness without costing you something essential. By cultivating independence first, you protect your dignity, sharpen your discernment, and anchor yourself in a sense of worth that does not fluctuate with external validation. Spiritual development teaches that true strength begins within, and when that strength is embodied, connection becomes mutual rather than transactional. The practical message is clear. Build wholeness before seeking influence. Value freedom over approval. Maintain the ability to walk away without bitterness, and let your autonomy speak for you. Because when you do not need power to complete you, you finally meet it as an equal. To conclude, connecting with powerful people is not about trying to be liked, seen, or accepted. It's about understanding the nature of power itself. Power responds to clarity, value, and presence, not effort or good intentions. When you stop chasing approval and start becoming someone who brings leverage, insight, and emotional stability, the right people naturally recognize you. True influence begins within, and when your inner world is aligned, your outer connections shift effortlessly. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this insight, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content on spirituality, influence, and inner transformation. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on spiritual wisdom and personal power. Holiday chaos with a covert narcissist. What really happens? The holiday season is often described as the most wonderful time of the year. But for those dealing with a covert narcissist, it can feel more like a minefield than a celebration. As the saying goes, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. In today's video, we are diving deep into the hidden dynamics of holiday chaos and exploring how you can maintain your inner sanctuary when the festivities feel like a front for manipulation. Here at Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that understanding these patterns is the first step toward reclaiming your joy and your power. We'll be sharing practical, spiritually grounded principles to help you navigate the season with grace and boundaries. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt more drained than rejuvenated after a holiday gathering? Share your experiences or your favorite way to protect your energy in the comments below. Your story might be the light someone else needs to find their way through the fog. 1. Increased passive aggression. During the holiday season, a time traditionally reserved for light and connection, the covert narcissist orchestrates a subtle yet devastating shift in the atmosphere, replacing genuine warmth with a calculated increase in passive aggression. Instead of the overt outbursts one might expect from a typical conflict, they deploy a sophisticated arsenal of sarcasm and jokes, specifically engineered to knock you off balance and erode your sense of security. This behavior is rarely about a single comment. It is an energetic strategy designed to destabilize your peace, often serving as a painful catalyst for a deeper spiritual awakening. You might find yourself standing in a kitchen you have spent 12 hours cleaning, only to have them imply to a group of guests that you have been lazy or unhelpful all day. This public shaming is a masterclass in psychological manipulation, as it forces you into a lose-lose scenario. If you stay silent, the lie stands. But if you defend yourself, they immediately retreat behind the "I was just kidding" defense. This tactical withdrawal allows them to avoid all accountability while simultaneously painting you as too sensitive or unstable to the outside world. The weight of these interactions can feel like a heavy shroud over the festivities, yet within this darkness lies the seed of spirituality, as you are forced to look beyond the physical realm to understand the profound drain on your soul. As the metaphor of the 1,000 tiny cuts suggests, it is not one single blow that breaks the spirit, but the relentless accumulation of subtle jabs that occurs while the world expects you to be joyful. They use these holiday gatherings as a stage to perform a version of reality where they are the long-suffering martyr and you are the source of their discontent, turning the very concept of family into a weapon of isolation. This period of intense confusion often acts as the dark night of the soul that precedes a true spiritual awakening, prompting you to realize that their perception of you is a distorted reflection of their own internal void. By recognizing that their sarcasm is a projection of their inability to experience true joy, you begin to detach from the emotional roller coaster they have built for you. Navigating this holiday chaos requires a commitment to your own spirituality, anchoring yourself in a truth that is not dependent on their validation or honesty. When they attempt to ruin the harmony of a dinner or a gift exchange with a biting remark disguised as humor, they are attempting to pull you into their low vibrational state of constant lack and envy. The shift happens when you no longer take the bait, choosing instead to observe their behavior as a neutral witness rather than a wounded participant. This detachment is the hallmark of a spiritual awakening, allowing you to see that their need to shame you in front of others is a desperate attempt to feel significant in a world where they feel inherently empty. By maintaining your inner sanctuary and refusing to let their jokes penetrate your core, you transform the holiday minefield into a sacred training ground for resilience. Each moment of choosing peace over retaliation strengthens your connection to the divine, proving that even in the midst of a narcissist's carefully crafted chaos, your light remains untarnished and your journey toward a higher state of spirituality continues to flourish. 2. The overworked martyr act. The holiday season is often painted as a time of warmth and connection. Yet for you, it may feel more like navigating a complicated minefield when dealing with a covert narcissist who masterfully adopts the role of the overworked martyr. You watch as they insist on taking the entire burden of the festivities upon their shoulders, flatly refusing your genuine offers of assistance with a heavy sigh or a dismissive wave of the hand. This calculated independence is rarely about a sincere desire to serve. Instead, it is a strategic setup designed to create an emotional debt that you can never fully repay. As they meticulously decorate, cook, and organize while rejecting every hand you reach out to help, they are silently building a reservoir of resentment that they will eventually pour over the entire celebration. Once they reach a self-induced state of total exhaustion, the mask of the helpful host slips to reveal a weaponized fatigue used to make you feel profoundly guilty and inherently selfish. You might find yourself standing in a kitchen you were not allowed to enter, listening to them lament that no one appreciates me, or I have to do everything around here, even if you have spent the entire day following their specific instructions to stay out of the way. This toxic cycle serves as a profound distraction from your own spirituality and inner peace, as it forces you to focus your energy outward on managing their volatile emotions rather than inward on your own soul's growth. In the realm of spiritual development, we learn that true service is given freely without the expectation of using one's tiredness as a tool for manipulation or control. When a narcissist weaponizes their sacrifice, they are actually engaging in a form of emotional theft, stealing the joy and presence that these sacred moments are meant to foster. You are left feeling drained and confused, wondering how a season of light turned into a heavy shadow of obligation and silent treatment. It is essential to recognize that their refusal of help is a conscious choice made to maintain a position of moral superiority, allowing them to play the victim in a play they wrote, directed, and starred in. By understanding this dynamic, you can begin to detach from the guilt they attempt to project onto you, realizing that their exhaustion is a performance intended to bypass accountability. Your journey toward healing involves reclaiming your emotional energy and refusing to internalize the narrative that you are unappreciative simply because you didn't play a role in a script you never asked for. True spirituality teaches us that we are responsible for our own boundaries. We cannot light ourselves on fire to keep someone else warm, especially when they are the ones who deliberately chose to stand in the cold. As you move through these challenging interactions, remember that your worth is not defined by their refusal to let you contribute or by the false accusations they hurl in moments of manufactured fatigue. This awareness is a pivotal step in your spiritual development, allowing you to observe the act with clarity and a firm refusal to participate in the drama. By staying grounded in your truth, you protect your spirit from the chaos and ensure that the holiday remains a time for your own reflection and authentic connection, rather than a season of walking on eggshells. If you are ready to release the burden of the martyr act and reclaim your peace, repeat after me. I am receiving this divine clarity today. It is meant for me. I trust the healing path ahead. 3. Emotional sabotage. Imagine you are standing in front of the mirror, adjusting your festive attire, and finally feeling a sense of peace, only to have the air sucked out of the room by a sudden, sharp accusation or a manufactured crisis. This is the hallmark of holiday chaos fueled by a covert narcissist. A calculated strike of emotional sabotage timed perfectly to occur mere minutes before you walk out the door to a celebration. While you are focused on the spirit of giving and connection, they are focused on a different agenda, ensuring that you are mentally and emotionally shattered before you even arrive. By rattling your cage at the 11th hour, they effectively hijack your nervous system, forcing you into a state of flight or fight that lingers long after you've entered the party. As the legendary Maya Angelou once famously said, When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And these recurring patterns of pre-event conflict are the clearest evidence of their need for total psychological dominance. From the lens of spiritual wisdom, this behavior is an attempt to dim your inner light so that you cannot shine in a social setting, effectively isolating you even when you are in a room full of people. Once you reach the event, the trap is fully set. Because you are still reeling from the cruelty behind closed doors, you naturally appear distant, preoccupied, or perhaps even visibly shaken. The narcissist, however, pivots instantly, wearing a mask of charm and tranquility that makes your distress look irrational or difficult to unsuspecting onlookers. They subtly use your authentic reaction to their mistreatment as evidence to gaslight you, pointing to your somber mood as proof that you are the problem who ruins the holiday spirit. This creates a dizzying cycle of confusion where your very soul feels under siege by someone who claims to love you. To survive this, you must lean into the spiritual wisdom of discernment, recognizing that their chaos is not a reflection of your character, but a projection of their own internal void. As the poet Rumi beautifully reminded us, the wound is the place where the light enters you, and understanding this toxic dynamic allows you to stop absorbing their poison. Instead of defending yourself against baseless claims, you begin to observe the maneuver with a detached clarity, realizing that your peace is a fortress they cannot breach without your permission. By identifying the sabotage as a predictable script rather than a spontaneous truth, you reclaim the power to remain centered, keeping your heart open to the true joy of the season while refusing to let their darkness dictate your emotional reality. 4. Attention-seeking meltdowns. While the holiday season is often painted as a time of warmth and connection, for those dealing with a covert narcissist, it frequently transforms into a calculated gauntlet of emotional exhaustion and silent tension. You might find yourself decorating the tree or preparing a meal, only to realize that the atmosphere has suddenly shifted into a chilling silence that feels heavier than the winter air outside. This isn't just a simple mood swing. It is a tactical redirection of energy designed to pull you away from your joy and back into the narcissist's orbit. This phenomenon serves as a profound catalyst for spirituality and spiritual awakening, as it forces us to look beyond the surface level of human behavior and recognize the deeper energetic battles at play. When the narcissist realizes they are not the central sun around which every conversation and smile revolves, they initiate a series of attention-seeking meltdowns that are as subtle as they are destructive. The core of this holiday chaos begins when the covert narcissist feels the spotlight drifting towards someone else. Perhaps a child opening a gift, a relative sharing a success story, or simply the collective spirit of the season. In that moment, they don't throw a visible tantrum. Instead, they might retreat into a performative shell of victimhood, shutting down entirely or offering only icy, one-word responses. This calculated withdrawal acts like an emotional vacuum, sucking the life out of the room until every guest is subconsciously forced to walk on eggshells to avoid further upsetting the fragile peace. You may have heard the metaphor that being with a narcissist is like trying to keep a leaky bucket full of water. No matter how much love, attention, or validation you pour in, the whole of their insecurity ensures it never stays full. This constant need to soothe their ego is a drain on your vital life force, yet it is often the very thing that triggers a spiritual awakening, as you begin to realize that your peace cannot be dependent on their approval. In these moments, the narcissist's behavior is a mirror reflecting their internal void, and as they turn cold, they are essentially demanding that you abandon your own happiness to rescue them from their self-imposed isolation. Think of the story of the traveler who tries to warm a frozen statue by giving away their own coat. Eventually, the traveler freezes while the statue remains unchanged. This is exactly what happens when you prioritize the narcissist's manufactured crisis over your own holiday peace. By understanding the deeper spirituality of these interactions, you can see that their meltdowns are not a reflection of your worth, but a sign of their own disconnection from the source of true internal joy. As you navigate these difficult dynamics, remember that the chaos is often a distraction meant to keep you from the quiet inner growth that occurs when you finally choose to stop playing the role of the perpetual peacemaker. Embracing this truth allows you to step out of the cycle of manipulation and into a higher state of consciousness where your light is no longer dimmed by someone else's shadows. This journey is rarely easy, but it is through these fires of domestic friction that the most resilient version of your spirit is forged, leading you toward a life of authenticity and profound peace that no holiday meltdown can ever truly take away. If you found these insights helpful for navigating the holidays, don't hesitate to like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as we continue exploring the reality of attention-seeking meltdowns. 5. Isolation from family. The holiday season is meant to be a time of warmth and communal joy. Yet when you are navigating this period with a covert narcissist, the experience often shifts from festive connection to a calculated campaign of isolation designed to sever your ties with those who love you most. You may notice that the tension begins long before the first decoration is hung, as they masterfully use subtle criticisms and whispered insecurities to plant seeds of doubt about your family and friends. When they tell you, "Your mom doesn't really like me," or suggest that your siblings are judging your lifestyle, they aren't just sharing a passing feeling. They are building a psychological wall between you and your primary support system. This tactic is a direct assault on your inner peace, forcing you into a position where you feel you must choose between the person you live with and the people who raised you. As the invitations to dinners and gift exchanges start to arrive, you find yourself making excuses to stay home, not because you truly want to miss the fun, but because the emotional price of attending is simply too high to pay. You start skipping family events just to avoid the inevitable drama, the cold shoulder, or the explosive arguments that wait for you at home if you dare to enjoy yourself without them. This slow erosion of your social circle is a devastating blow to your spiritual development, as it traps you in a vacuum where the narcissist becomes your only source of truth and validation. True spirituality teaches us that we are interconnected beings meant to thrive in community. Yet the narcissist seeks to break those sacred threads of connection to keep you compliant, confused, and alone. They know that as long as you have a strong support system, you have people who can reflect your true self back to you. which makes it much harder for them to maintain their web of illusions. By cutting you off, they ensure that you lose the external perspectives that might help you see the manipulation for what it is, effectively turning your home into a fortress of solitude rather than a place of refuge. You might feel a profound sense of guilt for abandoning your relatives, but it is vital to realize that this isolation is a forced retreat, a survival mechanism triggered by their relentless pressure rather than a choice you made in a vacuum of free will. Understanding this dynamic is a vital step in your journey toward healing, as it allows you to see the invisible cage being built around you during what should be the most inclusive and generous time of the year. Reclaiming your right to community is not just a social act. It is a profound declaration of your worth and a necessary part of your spiritual development. You deserve to be surrounded by people who celebrate your existence, rather than those who see your external bonds as a threat to their control. As you navigate the holiday chaos, remember that your intuition is a divine gift designed to protect you. And when it tells you that something is wrong, it is calling you back to your own strength and identity. Breaking the cycle of isolation requires immense courage and the willingness to face the narcissist's displeasure. But it is the only way to return to a path of authentic connection and light. By recognizing these patterns, you begin to dismantle the power they hold over your relationships, allowing you to step back into the world with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. Embracing the truth of your situation is the ultimate act of self-love, paving the way for a life where your holiday traditions are defined by genuine love rather than fear and manufactured distance. 6. Holiday hoovering. When the holiday lights begin to twinkle and the air turns cold, you might feel a familiar, unsettling tug at your heartstrings, a phenomenon known as holiday hoovering. This strategic maneuver is designed to pull you back into a cycle of emotional turbulence just when you are most vulnerable. If you have distanced yourself from a covert narcissist, you may suddenly find your phone buzzing with nostalgic photographs of better times or urgent, manufactured crisis texts that demand your immediate intervention and sympathy. They weaponize your empathy, counting on the fact that the season of giving will make you more likely to overlook the patterns of the past in favor of a fleeting hope for a peaceful future. For those of you who are spending the festivities under the same roof as one, you might notice a sudden, jarring shift where they become uncharacteristically affectionate, offering a level of warmth that feels like the miracle you have been praying for. However, it is vital to your emotional survival to recognize that this is not a sign of a genuine change of heart, but rather a calculated attempt to reinforce the trauma bond while your guard is lowered by the sentimentality of the season. As the legendary Maya Angelou once wisely remarked, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." And this profound spiritual wisdom serves as your shield against the illusion of their temporary kindness. The covert narcissist understands that the holidays are a time of heightened longing for connection, and they use these beautiful human traits to re-hook you into a dynamic where they are once again the center of your universe. They bank on your desire for a traditional celebration to make you ignore months of psychological exhaustion, hoping that a few days of feigned adoration will erase the memory of their previous coldness. You must realize that true, lasting transformation is a slow, arduous process of the soul, whereas hoovering is merely a frantic reaction to the fear of losing control over their source of validation. By tapping into your own deep well of spiritual wisdom, you can begin to see these grand gestures not as invitations to love, but as anchors designed to keep you trapped in a harbor of dysfunction. As the poet Rumi beautifully stated, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Often, the greatest barrier to your own healing is the hope that the narcissist will finally become the person you need them to be. When you choose to observe their behavior with clinical detachment rather than emotional reactivity, you strip the hoovering tactic of its power. Standing firm in your boundaries during a time when the world tells you to forgive and forget is perhaps the most courageous act of self-love you can perform. You are not being cold or heartless. You are being discerning and protective of the internal light that you have worked so hard to keep burning despite the storms they created. This season, let your commitment to your own mental and spiritual health be the guiding star that leads you away from the chaos and toward a life defined by genuine, consistent, and peaceful reality. If this message helped you find clarity amidst the holiday chaos, leave a comment of faith. I am protected by God's peace. I choose His truth over the cycles of the past. 7. The post-holiday rewrite. The holiday season often feels like navigating a fragile glass house where you must tiptoe to avoid shattering the silence. Yet no matter how perfectly you perform, the covert narcissist is already preparing to rewrite the script of your shared reality. While this festive time is meant to be a sacred portal for spirituality and communal love, for those entangled with a manipulator, it becomes a calculated battlefield where joy is weaponized and peace is systematically dismantled to serve a hidden agenda. Even if the actual celebrations passed with outward laughter and apparent harmony, the post-holiday period marks the beginning of a cold, psychological revisionism that seeks to retroactively transform success into failure. This phenomenon is a profound test of your inner light, often serving as the grueling catalyst for a deep spiritual awakening as you are forced to distinguish between their distorted projections and the truth of your own experience. They will meticulously scan the horizon of your memories to find a tiny, insignificant moment, perhaps a fleeting look of exhaustion on your face, or a 3-second delay in your gratitude, and frame it as the time you ruined everything, simply to maintain their cherished role as the wounded victim. It is as if they are a master painter who takes a vibrant, colorful canvas of your genuine efforts and slowly brushes over the scenes with shades of darkness until the original image of a happy day is completely unrecognizable to the naked eye. This systematic rewriting of history is not merely a lapse in memory, but a strategic attempt to ensure you remain in a state of perpetual apology, tethering your emotional state to their bottomless need for control and validation. From the lens of spirituality, this chaotic cycle serves as a forge for the soul, stripping away your reliance on external approval and forcing you to find an unshakable, quiet truth within your own heart. When they claim you destroyed the sanctity of the holiday over a misplaced comment or a minor oversight, It is a cosmic invitation for you to practice discernment over reaction, recognizing that their gaslighting is a reflection of their internal emptiness rather than a measure of your worth. You are like a lighthouse being pelted by a fierce storm. The waves may crash and the winds may howl that you have failed, but your primary sacred duty is to keep your light burning steady against the onslaught of their fictional grievances. Refusing to accept their distorted narrative is the ultimate act of reclaiming your sovereignty, as you learn to hold on to your truth like a sacred text that cannot be smudged or erased by their manipulative ink. As you move through the aftermath of this emotional sabotage, you eventually realize that while they are trapped in a self-constructed prison of victimhood, your unwavering commitment to the truth is the very key to your liberation. This journey requires immense courage to trust your own senses over their persistent whispers, ultimately transforming the holiday chaos into a refined sense of self-awareness where your boundaries become a sanctuary and your spirit remains unbowed by their shadows. The holidays are meant to be a time of peace and connection, but as we've explored today, a covert narcissist often uses this season to create a different kind of reality. By understanding these subtle patterns of manipulation and chaos, you reclaim your power and protect your inner peace. Remember, your light is not meant to be dimmed by someone else's shadow, especially not during the most sacred times of the year. Stay grounded in your truth and prioritize your spiritual well-being above all else. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who might need these insights today. Don't forget to subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom and hit that notification bell so you never miss our upcoming guides on healing and self-discovery. Thank you for being part of our community, and I'll see you in the next video.